Some people make things happen, some watch things happen, and others wonder what happened. Carl Teichrib is our guest today. He will make sure we are not left wondering what happened. It's time for another provoking edition of Politics and Religion.
Look, there are two things I don't discuss: politics and religion.
In my house, we don't talk about politics and we don't talk about religion.
I'll talk to you about anything except politics and religion.
I never talk about politics and religion.
Politics determines how we'll live here on Earth. Religion determines how we'll live forever. I'm Irvin Baxter. I think it's time we talk about it.
We have a very special guest on our program today, Mr. Carl Teichrib, and a longtime friend. Before we go to Carl, however, let me quickly mention to you, those of you that are still wanting to go on our tour to Israel, 11 days, Israel only. It's going to be a time to slow down and enjoy the Holy Land. If you can go with Judy and I, we would love to have you on this trip. We will be with you on the bus, on the plane, breakfast, dinner, supper. Well, hope you don't get tired of us being with us that much. But anyway, it's going to be a great time. We will be stopping at every major site in the Middle East, in the Holy Land in particular. And we will not only be talking about the past, not only the present, but we will also be talking about the future. It is a prophecy tour, and you're going to stand where some of the greatest events yet to happen in this time in which we live are getting ready to happen. So if you can go with us to Israel, make it happen. Call us right now, 1-800-END-TIME. Ask to speak to someone about the tour. Also, don't forget our conference in Mesquite on June the 6th. That will be at 6 p.m. All the information is on our website at endtime.com. So what a delight to have Carl Teichrib on the program with me today. Carl, it's been a while since we've been together.
It's a pleasure to be back with you again. I hope you've been doing well.
You know, we've a lot of water under the bridge since we last talked, but I'd actually lost track of you. But I came across your name somewhere, and I said, oh, Tani, you've got to get Carl on the program with us. So anyway, she was able to arrange it, so I really thank you and appreciate you being on with us today.
Well,
I noticed, by the way, that you have sort of started a new thing called forcingchange.org. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we started it a few years ago already, and what it is a monthly online journal that documents the rise and the movements of globalization. And we take a look at all aspects of this, including the economics of it, the social and the religious challenges. And right now we're just working on our next issue that it'll contain a timeline going all the way back from the beginning of last century up until today, taking a look at the rise of an international military force and the concept of world law and the necessity for a global military presence to back up world law. So every month we hammer through different aspects of how globalization impacts the church, impacts individuals, nations, economies, and we have a number of different writers, not just myself, but there are others as well who participate with this project. And if people are interested, they can definitely go on to our website, forcingchange.org, and sign up for our e-alerts, which are free. That just gives you basically a rundown of what's happening every month. But more than that, I would encourage people to sign up to become a member, which is like taking a subscription and then having access to every single issue, including the one that will be coming out in a few days.
I would like to tell everyone that the material that Carl is offering you right now is not ordinary. It is exceptional in quality. Carl is an in-depth researcher. He's written for Endtime magazines in time past, and we'd love to arrange for him to do that in the future as well, because his articles are always absolutely excellent. So if you're interested at all, you will enjoy the in-depth articles that Carl will put on forcingchange.org, so I do recommend that to you. Now, Carl, we've got a lot to talk about today. The world is much closer to one world government than when you and I talked last. So what I'd like to do is start off with the fact that one thing I found so interesting about you is that you were able to find your way into some high-level meetings such as Chicago's Council on Foreign Relations, the World Federalist Association, and I'd like for you to share with our listeners today a little bit of what you found there. Let's start with the World Federalist Association. Tell us what that is, tell us some of your experiences, and what's even happening right now.
The World Federalist Association is a long-time movement that advocates for world government. In fact, they're the largest U.S.-based pro-world government lobby group, and they spend a lot of time at the United Nations. They work quite a bit with personnel from the State Department, and their goal, their purpose, their agenda is literally to see a world federal government come into existence. They've been operational since the 1940s. They no longer call themselves the World Federalist Association, not on the U.S. side. And incidentally, there are national World Federalist groups all around the world, not just the U.S. Canada has them. Some of the European nations have World Federalist groups. But in the U.S., they have changed their name, and they call themselves now Citizens for Global Solutions, which sounds really benign. And if you go into their background, if you go into what they've proposed in the past and what they're proposing even still today, it is the concept of world law, a world court. The idea of an international criminal court actually stemmed from them. They were instrumental in making sure the International Criminal Court came into existence. In fact, there's a real interesting history of William Pace, who was at that time the executive director for the World Federalist Movement, involving himself by personally going to heads of state and lobbying for an international criminal court with the backing and support of the World Federalist Association. So this is one of those organizations, Irvin, that most people have never heard of, and yet has played an instrumental role in directing American policy and, more importantly, working for global government.
Well, you know, when you have people who have lobbying arms extending at the United Nations, at the Congress, even reaching into the White House, they take on a huge level of influence far beyond what the average person is able to exercise, because they're there, they're visible, they're making friends, they're influencing people. And so the World Federalists, now called Citizens for Global Solutions, like you say, they were behind, probably the central force behind the International Criminal Court, which is now really coming into its own, sad to say. And also the responsibility to protect was another thing that they lobbied vigorously for. And then they also gave the Norman Cousins Award to Walter Cronkite back in the year 2000, which is the award they give every year to the person that's done the most to promote global government. So they've been very, very active, and they still are very active.
You know, this is, again, one of those institutions that a lot of people have never heard of, and yet the historical role they have played all the way through from the 40s on has been very, very vigorous. When I was, this is already a number of years ago, I was at the United Nations Millennium Forum as a participant, and one of the things that struck me, Irvin, was that when I walked in, there were World Federalists at the reception desk where I had to fill out my forms and sign out my security waivers and do all that good stuff. And in the process of doing it, it became very clear that this was a World Federalist event. And they expressed it as such. They were very clear about it. And at that time, I was tied in a little bit with the movement. I had attended numerous meetings. And when I arrived at the reception desk, I was looking at people who I knew, and they knew me. And they were saying, "Yes, this is our show. This is how we're playing the game." And so that really opened up my eyes to the fact, Irvin, that this isn't just a group that stays in the backwaters. This isn't just a pie in the sky, sit around a circle, sing Kumbaya, and hope for world peace. These guys are actively involved in looking to shape and reforge an international system. They're not the only ones, though. There are many other groups that have similar end goals, similar agendas. And what people need to realize is the quest for world government isn't something that just popped up out of nowhere. This has a long historical and a very deeply rooted sense of or desire for a global change. This is something that didn't just pop up out of the woodwork. It's been ongoing for decades and decades and decades.
So what you're saying, Carl, is that the process of globalization is not just a happening whose time has come. It's just not the normal evolution of society, but this actually is a planned event which has been triggered on purpose, and the fire has been fed on purpose until finally it's just about to engulf the entire world.
Yeah, this is not accidental. People have an erroneous view of history if they view history as an act of accident. This isn't. There is a very strategic, very deliberate aspect to history. And you can take it all the way to the philosophers of the Enlightenment period. You can go back even further than that. But where it really comes into its own is what happened just before World War I and during World War I with the concepts of a league to enforce peace. Incidentally, I love that phraseology, the idea of enforcing peace. Then the birth of the League of Nations and the entire subsequent movement that propelled the idea of a European Union, a European common home, which predates World War II, world federalism, which predates World War II. You see all of this already in the works at that point in time. And indeed, world leaders at the end of World War I were looking forward to a coming time where war would be ended, where we would see an enforceable world law, and we would have the golden age upon us, the brotherhood of man, and where religions and economies and political structures would work for a common and a universal value. We would all be good global citizens. I've seen this when I've been to various UN meetings, when I've been to various global governance events. I read it in the literature. It's everywhere. This is not a conspiracy in the sense that people think conspiracy where shady men behind closed doors are talking. Are there aspects like that? I don't doubt it. But this is really a conspiracy of an idea, something that's ongoing. And
So Carl, are these people doing this because they think it's the right thing to do, or are some of them actually doing it because they believe they will have their hands on the level of power, the levers of power, or is both actually going on here?
I see both. I've met people in both camps. I've met people, Irvin, who are firm believers that this is the right thing to do. And I've met other people, and they're the scarier ones, who obviously have a desire to have their fingers in the pie. And they see that this is a way of leveraging personal power, personal aggrandizement.
And so do they do that because they believe they're right, and therefore most of the people of the world don't see the light, and therefore they are called by destiny, possibly, to bring this to pass?
There's certainly an elitism there, no question.
We're up against a break here, Carl, so we're listening today to Mr. Carl Teichrib. He's our guest today on Politics and Religion, and we will be back in just a moment.
Endtime Ministries presents End of the Age, a 30-minute commercial-free TV show hosted by Irvin Baxter. Every Monday, End of the Age airs on the Church Channel at 9 p.m., Daystar at 10 p.m., and on TBN every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., all Central Standard Time. On End of the Age, Irvin depicts how modern issues like an establishment of a one-world government, the religion of Islam, a coming World War III, and more line up so clearly with Bible prophecies written over 2,000 years ago. To get tomorrow's news today, be sure to tune into End of the Age every Monday on the Church Channel at 9 p.m., Daystar at 10 p.m., and on TBN every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., all Central Standard Time. Visit endtime.com for more details or call us at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
The Bible prophesies about 4 great spirits which